Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now today is a big day for me as a YouTuber as I've just broken the 7,000 subscriber mark, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you guys for subscribing to the channel, watching my videos, enjoying what I do and being part of my social media. It's all been a massive whirlwind, so huge thank you to all of you guys. And I also want to bring you a deck that I think will be really beneficial to people who are just getting into the game, and it's actually a really strong deck in a colour that not a lot of people necessarily appreciate, which is Mono Fire. And a lot of it comes from the Final Fantasy XIV starter deck that came out with Opus VIII. So you could class this as a starter deck evolved. So I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But the first thing I want to do is to celebrate the 7,000 subscriber mark. I do want to do a giveaway, which is going to be for 2 of these promo last swirls. Now these last swirls are very highly sought after in the Final Fantasy TCG community, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. So check the link in the description box below. This giveaway is going to be live for just over 2 weeks, so definitely check out the link and enter if you want a chance to win one of these fantastic promos. Now there's going to be 2 different winners for one of each of these promos, so you guys don't get confused. And I do actually want to try and think of some way to give thanks to my new Opera Omnia followers as well. So stay tuned if you're an Opera Omnia follower rather than a TCG follower, because I do plan on doing something for you guys as well. And as always, don't forget to check all the social links in the description box below. My Discord channel in particular has got an amazing community in it, so I'd really encourage you to join in with that. But without further ado, let's just get on and talk about this deck, shall we? So the inspiration for this Mono Fire deck is actually from Mono Lightning more than anything, because I really like the way that Mono Lightning is an aggressive deck that can attack with almost reckless abandon because of its high EX count. So I actually kind of think that EX count is important in an aggressive deck, because if you're going to be swinging with your guys repeatedly, and in a fire deck that is what you're going to be wanting to do, certainly with cards like Archangel HM and Heian, then you kind of are going to leave yourself more open than you'd possibly like. So keeping a high EX count means that taking damage isn't necessarily the end of the world for you, that you can actually reap benefits for doing so, like card advantage. So I figured I'd go with a high EX count deck, and this has 19 EX bursts in it, including Mont Blanc, which can search for Marsh, which can search for other fire characters. And I think that having searches for other things is really important to this game. And I also really like the interaction between Gasetsu and Heian, because it means that Heian is strictly a 4CP 9k brave attacker, just that buffs all of your guys when he attacks. That just seems really strong. And then I kind of thought, hold on a minute, he's a samurai. What other samurai are available? And then I realised that Ayame and Iroha are both samurai, and they both come from Final Fantasy XI. So that means that Volca makes a lot of sense in this deck as well. So if you play Volca, then I'm like, oh, okay. And then Archangel HM is really popular, so I thought, okay, this might be really good, because I may have undersold him slightly when I spoke about him in my Opus VIII review. He can actually be really devastating if left to his own devices, so definitely worth checking him out. And then I just thought, hold on a minute, all these bits kind of go together quite nicely, and then if I add a couple of bits in that have like a nice EX burst for a good reason, then maybe this is a deck that can make Mono Fire actually worthwhile. And I thought, Cloud, 5CP Cloud is just genuinely a very good card, and you're playing an aggro deck. Trust me, you milling 10 cards or removing the top 10 cards of your deck from the game if Cloud dies is more inconvenient for your opponent than for you, because if you're taking damage and trying to get these EXs to go off, then Cloud's going to do more damage anyway, so you're threatening their cards just by him existing. If they try and kill him, then you could, threaten bringing him back and just killing another guy for free. There's actually a lot of wiggle room in this deck I've discovered as well. There's a lot of ways that you can change it around so that you can cater to your needs. Like, you'll notice that I haven't put the Warrior of Light engine in here. Now the reason I haven't done that, despite the fact that I do think it's still a very potent engine, is because I didn't want to have too many cards that kind of require other pieces, and I didn't want to just have Aegis Sol and Warrior of Light. I always like to have at least one other Warrior of Light, just that the engine is more kind of consistent. I also don't have room in this deck as it currently is to run 4CP Phoenix, which is very strong with Warriors of Light, and I kind of opted to have Ifrit so that I could warrant running Rain and Frit, and that makes the EX count in the deck much higher. You may choose not to have such a high EX count in your version of this deck, but I think that being able to attack with Reckless Abandon, as I've said earlier, is actually very good for an aggro deck, because it means that you're not kind of hesitating, you're just kind of going for the throat, which is why the deck is kind of called EI Strike, because it's very that. You're kind of just going in, coming back, and just keep going. It's very quick, it's very flourishy, and it just does the job. One thing I really like is how easy it is to set up plays for the future of this deck. Your ideal early game is going to be a turn 1 backup, followed by a turn 2 Archangel, and then maybe a second backup, hopefully a second backup, and then third turn play a Volker, and then you just swing. And it's like, I actually really like the new red mage that grants haste and brave. So you could, if that's your second backup turn 2, you could just go play backup turn 1, doesn't matter what it is. If it's a Searcher, great. If it's Gesetsu, even better. Then you just kind of go, okay, 1, 2, and then swing for 2 damage because you've given him haste. And then turn 3, play Volker. Your guy can't block because they then have to play a guy, otherwise they're just taking damage through the nose. Then you just attack with the Archangel again. And Archangel, Iroha, and AMA all being Phoenix targets is actually very relevant in this deck, because it means that you've got an FF11 character that can come in, your guy can't block, so it kind of adds an extra effect to Phoenix. And quite honestly, Phoenix is the only actually expensive card in this deck. And Phoenix, given that it's an Opus 5 legend, and most of those are stupid expensive, actually isn't that expensive. I think I've seen it go for around the £10 mark. So if you want something to invest in and you want Mono Fire to actually be a thing, then Phoenix should be the absolute first thing that you go for. Cloud is a legend, but because he is a box topper for, you know, anyone who buys a box will always get 1 copy of this Cloud. He's actually very cheap for what he does. Like, in terms of monetary value, he's very cost effective, and he's just very worthwhile picking up. I really like the card. There are cards in this kind of, in Fire generally, particularly backups, that I want to run in here, but honestly there's just no room for them, because I think that having access to backups that can break themselves is really useful, particularly Black Mage, which can return your Phoenixes, your Beliases. Just by having a Black Mage out, you're more threatening in combat, because you can, for the 2C, if you've got 5 backups out, you can break 2, you can pay 2 CP, break the backup, put Belias back in your hand, pay the other 2, and then give your guy, you know, an extra 1,000 power and first strike. And that's actually really useful, because it just means that your opponent might fall for it and not notice that you're doing it. Illusionist is in here primarily to deal with things like Ishtola and Aerith, because those cards are an issue for any Fire deck. You could opt to run Ninja instead of Illusionist, so that you just like not caring about the fact that you've got Ishtolas on the board, but I mean Volker's kind of doing that job as he is. So whether you want to end up more in kind of a techie play like Illusionist, or putting more eggs into the no blocking basket, then you could do that. You could also run Yotsuyu, who is also very good. I just couldn't really figure out what I wanted to take out for it, because Meath is a really good card for consistency. Saz you could take out, because as much as, you know, having the EX burst is nice, he's probably the least useful EX burst here. And then Mont Blanc and Marsh I wanted to have 2 and 3 respectively, because I think having the ability to use Mont Blanc to search up Marsh to search up something else is actually very powerful, and Marsh can be a respectable attacker if you're using a Hien beforehand. And even if he's not, you know, you can attack, and then you've got Belias, you've got Ifrit, you've got all sorts of different sort of combat-y tricks that you can do, which will actually make him a worthwhile attacker. But you're mostly using him just to set up for future plays, and because he's an EX burst Fire character that hunts down more Fire characters, which we need in this game. The light card I opted for in here is actually a copy of Yuri, and the main reason for that is because of the Dull and Freeze mechanic, the Remove the Abilities mechanic, and he's a Fire character, which in this deck is actually more relevant than you might think. You have access, you know, you have playing Libro, which means he is going to get 1,000 power from her, but you also have Iroha, who's going to make it so that he deals 1,000 extra damage. So between Yuri and Iroha, you can actually deal 7,000 damage just by dulling 3 backups in your Iroha. If you have a Mont Blanc as well, it costs 1 fire and dull to make it so that you deal an extra 2,000 or 3,000 damage with Iroha if you've got Marsh out. So you have this kind of sniper mentality that you can do by just having those cards out. You don't actually have to pay anything into it, like in terms of cards from hand, you don't have to pay anything to deal up to 10,000 damage just to one thing, or spread it however you want. Card that I've been playing a lot of recently and really enjoying is Rufus. And I honestly, like, I know I said during my pull video that I really wanted this card, but the mathematics of this kind of sniper mentality actually works out very well, because very few people run cards like Minwu. Aerith is an issue. Yes, that's very true, but that's why we're running Illusionist and Yuri. You can either take her abilities away or make it so that she has to attack you, because we're Big Red. You know, this is a big Fire deck. Our guys are going to be bigger than Aerith, at least in theory. So that's why I've decided to play those cards. If you did want to run the Warrior of Light engine, the cards I'd suggest removing from this would be Frit, Rain, Marsh and Mont Blanc maybe. because then you've got access to other summons. The reason I've gone with the Ifrits is because the Frit in here is actually more of a defensive play than anything else. Because if you have a Rain and a Lebro and a Hien out, he's a respectable 7k attacker that is essentially free. You're attacking with a 2 CP card at 7,000 after you've attacked with a Hien, 8,000 damage if you've got an Iroha out as well. There's a lot of things that, you know, you've got all of your forwards are deceptively large, and if Frit dies, you then just search up an Ifrit and kill something. And I've decided to go with 3 of the Opus IV Ifrit because I think that, you know, because it's so easy for this deck to kind of chain searches, you're going to get to the extra characters that you need for the damage to make it worthwhile quicker. And then 1 copy of the Opus VIII Ifrit, mainly because I want to test it more than anything, because I think that at maximum potential it's actually very strong. 4 CP to deal 9,000 is a lot. So, I mean, but it's 4 CP, and I kind of just wanted it for the EX Burst. Like I said, this is a very EX Burst like centric deck, but the EX Bursts in here are for a reason. It's so that I can attack and feel more safe in doing so, so that I don't sit there and go, well, I'm helpless now after I've attacked. You can still do things. And I think that, you know, to run EX Bursts in such a way is actually beneficial, as opposed to just sticking them into any deck and just hoping that they'll go off. If you're going to play a deck that runs a lot of EX Burst, you kind of need to have a rhyme and a reason for doing so. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I really wanted to play this deck actually in Regional this weekend, but due to Mother's Day and me working in a restaurant right now, it's really, really busy, and I am probably at work while you're watching this video, so unfortunately I wouldn't be able to do that. But don't forget to check out the link in the description box below if you want a chance at winning one of these 2 Lastwell promos, and don't forget to check out all the social links in the description box below, and also don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.